What's going on, guys? It's Trevor with the Green Bay Health Project podcast. And today we're coming with, first of all, our first video podcast, which is super dope. We got a baller on, Monte Reyment. It's going to be a badass conversation because dude is 6 months today post-op,
Yeah.
Achilles
Yep.
rupture.
Yep.
And we thought, he's been, like I said, absolutely crushing it. So what we wanted to do was talk a little bit more about uh, kind of how it happened, but more so setting himself up for success because like Monty had things locked in, like you honestly had things locked in, a plan established before you ever had the surgery. And I think
Right.
that's had a lot to do with the outcomes that you've seen. So first of all, before I fanboy too hard on you, congrats, congrats on crushing it. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about, the how it happened and
Yeah.
what the process was like leading up to surgery for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always been active. I'm still like hanging on to the grade school after, camaraderie. I played two sports in college. I played football and ran track, and I missed the locker room more than anything. And, part of being an adult is you lose that unless you're playing some, rec league sports where you can talk about the glory days afterwards and have a couple of beers and do that sort of thing. So I've been doing that for 20 years, and and I've been very blessed to avoid any major injuries up until last year. And I suppose Father Time probably caught up with me a little bit, but at the same time, I think you try to hang on as long as you can because it makes me happy, and I love my teammates just like I love my college teammates. The same. It's just different now because we're none of it really actually in the end of the day matters other than
It all
you know
matters, man.
it does, but it doesn't. It's
Yeah.
like we're not out for trophies or anything. I mean, we did win it, but we're not out for trophies or doing anything like that. So, and I play quarterback, and we this was a rec league football. Again, no big deal. It's one of those things, and I've been doing the same thing for 20 years, playing quarterback in this league, and it was fluky. I was rolling out. I got around a guy. I had my eyes upfield, and I took a couple of steps to run into the end zone. Nobody was there, and it just my Achilles snapped and it ruptured, and it felt like somebody had kicked me in the back of the leg
Mm.
as hard as they could. And in my mind, I already knew exactly what happened before I even hit the ground. But I had hoped, I even yelled, like if like anybody's ever been in a car wreck or
Mm.
something catastrophic happens, like time slows down to almost stopping, and like 8 million things flash. And I can recall every single little thing like frame by frame. But I remember yelling, "Did somebody kick me?"
Mm.
Hearing a snap,
I remember you telling
like
me that.
like a bright white light, and then because I felt like the whole shock went up my whole body, and then it finally hit my brain. It was so weird. And then there was a bright white light, and then I was on the ground, and the guy that I got around like comes over and stands over me and goes, "I didn't kick you, bro." And I said, "I wish you did," because I knew what
Yeah,
happened.
right.
Like I knew immediately what had happened. So I got up, hopped on my left leg, like over to the bench, and it was my right leg that I had ruptured. So it was my dominant driving leg, right? And you just start thinking about every single thing. And I already had at that point reserved the fact that I was going to need surgery. I'd
Mhm.
reached down, touched where my Achilles was supposed to be, and it was just like it was soft. Um, and some people said it was like the worst pain they've ever had. Like other people that I've talked to since
Yeah.
then, that have ruptured their Achilles, and they said they would never wish it on anybody. To me, I don't know if it was just like in the moment, but it was like it was awful, but it wasn't the worst pain I've ever had. And
Mhm.
also, but it's weird because you get to that spot, and like for anybody who's ever had a major injury, for me, I just started like thinking about all of the things immediately that I needed to do. Like I was on the bench thinking about it while my team was playing. I was still
Mhm.
kind of rooting them on and trying to coach them through and do all that in between me like standing up and going through the pain and then sitting back down immediately and trying to figure it all out. And I thought about like, hey, I run a real estate team. Like what's my
Mhm.
team going to be doing if I can't do something? So I was putting a contingency plan in place as I was sitting on the bench, like trying to figure that out. And in the meantime, and unfairly to my wife, she happened to be at the game, the one game she showed up to this year.
It's so her
And
fault.
Yeah,
Scamming
definitely
you
her
listening.
fault. Yeah. And my niece and nephew were there and
Oh,
a bunch
damn
of
it.
other people were there. So it was like, and so one of my best friends is there and he's like, "Do you want me to call our doctor friend to see what you got to do?" And so he calls Sergey and Sergey didn't answer. And then everybody's like, "Do you need to go to the And I have like 8 million things, like 8 million people like coming at me. And I'm
Right.
like, just give me a second. Like all I needed to do was like take a couple deep breaths, think about it. And then I'm like, nope, there's nothing the ER is going to do. It snapped. Like
Mm.
if I go to the ER, it's going to be a big bill.
Yeah.
I'll deal with it in the morning. So I already had like compartmentalized that I'm going to have to sleep through this, before the next day. Nope. And I'm not a prescription drug guy. So I'm like, no pain pills whatsoever. I'm like, I'll just suck it up. It's going to suck, but I'll deal with it. Right.
Mhm.
So that happened. And then the next day, that night I made a post about, this. I think I just said on Facebook like this sucks, and then talked to like tore my Achilles. And then the cool thing was, and my friend Carrie Giacaris, who owns the Green Bay Glory, reached out to me immediately the next day. She had ruptured hers January before, and like she was so helpful and really got the ball rolling. Like I already knew that I was using you at that point for physical therapy if the doctors would have let me or insurance would have let me. So
Mhm.
I knew that was happening. But Carrie had given me like all of like her tips. So she introduced me to a guy by the name of Chris Smith for Achilles rebuild.
Mhm.
And Chris has been instrumental in just my mindset in attacking this thing. She had given me a specialized boot that she had been wearing for the Achilles tendon, which was way better than anything I would have got from the surgeon. So I already had the boot. And then I got the cool eye walker, which is like a peg leg. And
That is cool.
anybody who has to ever wear crutches, if you can avoid it. I mean, obviously, I don't think it works for knee injuries, but if you have an Achilles or maybe I don't know, but like this eye walk thing was amazing. So I highly recommend the eye walk. It was really cool. You walk around like a peg leg. And then, I talked to you right away. And then I also talked to Jackson at Midwest Pain Management as well. So I had already established my team within
Mhm.
2 days of, um, 2 days of this. And it was just through the network, as my personal network. It wasn't anything outlandish. There's people I trusted, other than Chris, who I didn't know, but
Mhm.
Carrie said great things about him. So, and
Right.
I trusted her. So that was really how it all kind of started. And, the big thing I heard was from everybody except for the surgeon's office and, them was you got to go after it right away. You have to attack it. And so that's really kind of how that started out. I was hoping to get in for surgery 4 days after the injury, but I also had a trip to London planned to go watch the Packers in London. And so that didn't they didn't they told me you're not going to London, and I said no, I'm going to London. I'll do surgery after I got back.
Mhm.
So I pushed surgery out 2 weeks, which I'd be maybe a little bit further along at this point, but I think even going to London, I ditched the eye walk after a couple of days. You can still, as long as your pain tolerates it, you can still walk around in that Achilles boot I had
Mhm.
for before surgery. So it was really interesting. I taught myself how to drive with my left leg. That was fun. So yeah, that was really how it led up to pre-surgery and what had happened. But I think the keys were right away, like attack it and go after it. And I'm the guy who's like super stubborn and wants to prove everybody wrong. And
Mhm.
so my goal is to be running in a month, which is completely unrealistic. But you shoot for the moon and you're among
Yeah.
stars, kind of right. So
Right.
that was really it. And that from the get-go too.
Yeah. No, and that's what's so sick about it is like even hearing it again and how it all processed. I mean, you processed it real quick. Like it was like, hey, this happened. But I think the catalyst was you didn't necessarily feel bad for yourself. Like, yeah, it's shitty and it sucks, but like what are you gonna do? What other option do you have?
Right.
So you made that post, you formulated a plan, and within 48 hours you kind of knew what you had to do and what was going to be done, and you hit the ground running, which
Yeah.
again, like the better you set yourself up prior to all of that, like the better the outcomes are going to be. And you're a testimonial to that with where you're at in the rehab process. But I think that's probably the biggest thing you could have done. So kudos to you for doing all that.
Yeah, I mean it's exponential from what happened, and and I don't know that I'd be anywhere close to where I am right now if it wasn't for Carrie. And maybe I would be. Maybe I'm not giving myself credit, but like just the fact that she had told me that already put in my brain like this is gonna like I'm gonna be able to get through this,
Mhm.
and it's gonna suck. I mean, you hear all the stories, and then as soon as you have a major, one thing I learned is as soon as you have a major injury, everybody else in the world tells you about their major injury too. Like
I
as soon
bet.
as I'm walking around in a boot, it's like, oh, what'd you do? I tore my Achilles. Oh yeah, well I had surgery on my knee like 3 years ago, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh,
right.
okay, cool, yeah, like
Good for you, man.
how'd you get through it? What
Yeah.
happened? It's
Right.
like try to turn around, but and then I start finding myself now doing the same thing. So
Mhm.
it's
That's how
like,
it
oh
goes.
yeah, I did that.
Right. So then obviously you had a plan going into it, into the surgery, and
Yep.
I think this is where things are a lot different and people aren't as much in the know as it
Right.
comes to rehabbing the Achilles. So
Yep.
you've attacked it. I mean, you are 6 months post-op, you're running, you're
Yep.
jumping, you're doing agility stuff, like that's farther down the road. But what's the
Mhm.
process been like for you from, maybe changing even some of your mindsets? Obviously, you knew someone who went through it, who probably
Yep.
educated you a little bit, but from, the traditional way of treating the Achilles is very, they probably still have you in the boot, but that
Maybe.
hasn't been your case. So what's it been like going through the process afterwards?
Yeah. So I still think like, surgeons want to protect their work, right?
Hmm.
So like he did a great job, obviously. It's still together. We're loading the hell out of it. It was
Hmm.
awesome. But their philosophy is a lot different. So and I think maybe this is just basically like and this might just be a blanket human being thing. Like, okay, we have enough data to know you need to do X, Y, Z instead
Hmm.
of catering something individually. And so when I went in for surgery, like first of all, like immediately my consultation was a little bit of a battle because it
Hmm.
was okay, we're going to do this, and then you're going to be in a boot for 4 weeks, and you're going to be in a cast for like anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. We don't want you
Hmm.
putting any pressure on it for up to 4 to 6 weeks, and then and then you're going to really kind of just slowly gradually get into the rehab process.
Hmm.
And then from talking with you, with Chris, and also with Carrie, it was like everything I'm hearing is the exact opposite of what my surgeon is doing. And I'm not going to be able to sit around for 4 to 6
Right.
weeks and like just do that. It would fry me. It would be over. So, just doing enough. And then again, educating myself a little bit further on like, I've never went to school for health. And all I knew was, sports stuff and watching guys in the NFL and how they came back or other sports and like looking at some of their Achilles rehabs. But again, everybody's individually different. So that I think again, it's all mental when you go in. But like, so I went in, got the surgery on October 13th. 2 weeks after, they have you come back for the cast, and I was ready to go already. Like I was already in the gym 4 days
Yeah.
after my surgery. Yeah, obviously I'm not doing leg workouts or anything. I'm still in the eye walker, walking around like a pirate in the gym.
I
But
think
I
it's
was,
so cool though.
yeah, I know, totally.
That's
And I
legit.
and I went to Halloween as a pirate, and I forgot the eye walker that day. So
Oh man.
yeah.
The
So
one time.
right, yeah, the one time that it would have been perfectly acceptable.
Right.
So anyway, so we get into that whole scenario of okay, cast. I go in for the consultation and they tear the cast off, and it goes, yeah. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to just gradually start putting weight on it over the next 2 to 4 weeks. And I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, that's not what I've been reading. I know I need to start putting weight on it right away,
Hmm.
but surgeon told me this. So this is where Chris comes into play, and really the part where it was meant like 100% mental, like let's go 100% kind of thing. So I'm sitting in the same office I was actually on the same computer with Chris on my first meeting with him after the surgery, and he goes, "What did the surgeon tell you?" And I go, "Well, he said 20%, for the first 3 days, 20% for the next few days, and you'll be able to start walking around in your boot within like 4 to 6 weeks." And I said, "Well, that sucks. Now I'm going to be a pirate for another 4 to 6 weeks." So he goes, all right. He goes, so I get on the call with Chris. He says, what do you think? Like, have you tried putting any weight on it yet? And I said, no, like they told me not to. So he goes, all right, dude, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go, because it was dark in the room. He goes, go turn your light on. So I go turn the light on, and I kind of like, he's like, and don't bring your crutch, just kind of like put your hand on the desk and get yourself over there and get the light switch. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he said, when did they, and then I'm standing now because he wants me to see. He's like, can you stand up? I go, I don't know. I really didn't know if I could stand up and without a crutch. So I stood up. And he goes, when do they tell you you can put 100% weight on there? I said, oh, it's not going to be for another couple of weeks. He goes, part of my friend's here, but he goes, what do you think you're fucking doing right now? And I'm like, dude, like I'm 100% standing on it right now. Then
Right.
he goes, do some squats. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, dude. He's like, no. He's like, I want you to do some squats. So the day after I had got out of my cast, I was still in my boot,
Mhm.
but I was doing body squats and I was standing. Like that was a huge moral, mental victory for me right there. It was like, okay, I now know like I can trust him, I can trust you, and I can trust, what Carrie had told me. Everything that I heard opposite of the doctors was
Mhm.
that. And again, then it kind of got me thinking, it's like, go back to the doctor again. This isn't a slam on my surgeon because he did a
Right.
great job,
Yep.
but they're a one-stop shop. They
Mhm.
fix the Achilles. It could be a plan built for an 80-year-old. It could be a plan built for a 15-year-old. I'm 43. I need to make a decision for myself. Like, how am I going to approach this? And the only
Mhm.
way to do it is to attack it. And
Right.
that's right there at that moment. I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing now. Let's go as hard as we can
Mhm.
within reason, listen to my body, and let's roll.
Yeah. Well, and I
And that's
think
where you come
that's
in.
yeah, in the hands.
And the
That's
hands.
kind of
Oh,
weird.
those hands.
Well, and I think that's the other cool thing is, you put myself in contact with Chris, and he and I were talking like right off the bat too, because I was like, hey man, like what's kind of your protocol and your thought process after talking with Monty, and like how can I help? And he said the same thing, let me know what you're seeing. I'll let you know what I'm seeing, what our plan is. And everybody just works together from the jump. And I think for your mindset, hearing him say that, but more so having him literally tell you to go do a remedial task like turn a light switch on without that's what you were thinking about. You weren't thinking about getting up and walking. It just happened.
Right.
And so then it's like, okay, like let's have at it, man. And honestly, there was a huge shift. I remember I think we first met at Body and you walked up the stairs. It was like, yeah, I can do stairs. Cool. All right,
Right.
dude. Like, oh, let's go back down to the gym then. Like
Yeah.
and that's been a huge mental shift. And again, I just think the way you've attacked it has yielded the results you're seeing.
Yeah.
What were the so obviously like I'm interested in this question. So the process is streamlined, like this is how it goes, but it's all individualized to the person.
Mhm.
You've seen very good results, but what are some of I don't want people to think like it's all just a linear
Right.
increase. So what are some
Yeah.
of the hardships? I mean, because there were times where you're like, oh shit, it's pretty bad today.
Mhm.
Mentally, what were those days like for you?
Yeah, I mean they're not easy. I mean it's frustrating because everybody wants to be a little bit better the next day, right? And so there I think inevitably, and again this is my first major injury, but and hopefully my last major injury, but
Yeah.
uh, it's the you have to be able to bounce things off of somebody or talk to somebody. I think along the way, and I think this goes for like a ton of stuff in our in our world right now in mental health, but
Mhm.
like for me it was the lows were they were like a day or two, right? It was my legs really sore today. I felt like I took a step backwards. I don't know why. I'm doing everything the right way.
Mhm.
And your body's just like and your body might have just been like, dude, chill, like you're pushing too hard. And some of the stuff we're doing isn't like if you're a trained athlete or somebody who works out 5 to 7 days a week, it's not something that is like a normal. This is not a normal thing that you go through, so you're not used to it, and then you can't do certain things. And anytime I can't do something, it becomes very extremely frustrating for me.
Mm.
when I can't do something physically, especially if I could do it the day before and nothing changed.
Right.
Like other than maybe I had a workout or I had whatever. And so you get into those lows, and it's like that's where you came into play at times. Was like, dude, we just need to like massage it out. Like, just let's take a day off and relax. And I think also what I learned was to listen to my body along the way as well, and not beat myself up if I'm not hitting rehab as hard as I could have, or
Mhm.
if I take a day off from the rehab because I just mentally or physically don't have it that day. I think
Right.
that's okay. Like, you still, like, at the end of the day, it's like progress is day to day, but then you want to also evaluate it week to week and month to month.
Mhm.
And I always have that perspective of looking back to where I was on September 27th of 2022, where I was October 13th of 2022, and where I am now, April 13th of 2023.
Mhm.
Those are like, you have to take that inventory of your past in order to look at like what you're building for the future. And that was like that I think is like the one thing I learned. But when you're in the moment, is very difficult. And I think the best thing to ever do is just talk to somebody about it, and or talk with you. Be like, hey, dude, like, everybody goes through this. This
Mhm.
is normal. And then you kind of get through it. But yeah, there's definitely some times, and I hit the bottle probably a little bit hard too over the last 6 months. It's there's coping mechanisms in there. I didn't take pain pills, but I drank more probably than normal, and
Mhm.
it brought me to another point now where I don't anymore. Like, I'm done
Understand.
drinking. So
Yep.
um you just start learning. You learn, like, if you pay attention to yourself and like be honest with yourself and have that self-awareness, you're going to grow a lot faster, and be able to get past it. And you can't, you have to cut through bullshit, and there's nobody that feeds yourself more bullshit than yourself. Like,
Mm. It's the
everybody
worst.
lies to themselves more than anything, because it's you're not disappointing anybody else, right? Just yourself. But if you start just being self-aware and cutting past all of that, you're going to grow a lot faster. And I don't think it matters if it's an injury or anything else in life. Just things that I've learned about myself over the last 6 months that I already knew, but it's just a little bit harder to cut through it when you have an injury.
Yeah. Well, it's like rediscovering what you knew was there, but it's just coming more to the forefront because you're kind of put in a tough situation. And there's basically two roads to go down, right? Like you can kind of let it crumble or kind of let it defeat you and bring you down, or, and there's going to be those moments. I mean, what you just talked about, there's going to be those times, but it's what you do when that happens.
Yeah.
We're all resilient. We all have the capacity to do that. It's just a matter of doing it. It's
Yeah.
way that's like simplified. Like that makes
Yeah.
it sound easy. I suck at it. We all go through it, but I mean, there's you can
Yeah, sometimes we're too hard on ourselves, and
big
then
time.
sometimes we're not, and we're
Mhm.
too easy on ourselves. And there's
Mhm.
that medium. And I think it ebbs and flows. Like you said, there's ebbs and flows mentally throughout this whole process. The workout stuff, as hard as it is the easy part,
Mhm.
because it's just
Mhm.
physical. But the mental aspect of going through a serious injury, and if I did the woe is me stuff, like, I would be nowhere near, because I want everybody to feel sorry for me,
Right.
but it becomes about me then. In this case, I looked at it as like, one of the things I thought of while I was sitting on the bench the day I injured it was, how is this gonna look to my team?
Mm.
My agents. Like, if I can fight through this, that eliminates their excuses too. So it's
Right.
like, and then it's like, if they look at it the right way too, it's like, hey, shit's gonna happen.
Mhm.
So how do we fight through it? How do we go through it and burn through it? You bulldoze through it sometimes, and that's
Mhm.
a little bit of what I did too.
Yeah. And I think that's cool too, is talking about like the team atmosphere, obviously having a team of people you work with, and that's leadership looks different, right? There's different opportunities to lead, different ways to lead. So obviously with your team, there's a lot of communication, always communicating, always direction like that. But now it's, hey, some big time injury happened. How's he going to respond? So it's another opportunity I love that you said that to lead more from the forefront, not necessarily by communicating, but just by actions, which is real powerful.
Yeah, and if you were ever on a sports team back in the day, or whenever, even if you're on a sports team now, and you look at like some of the best leaders, they're not lead by rah rah,
Hmm.
they're lead by example. And I think, one of my pet peeves is hypocrisy. So I didn't want to be like that. I didn't want to be like that guy who's like, saying, hey, you can do it, and then not do it, or,
Right.
use my Achilles as an excuse to not accomplish things. And actually, like, I think after I got back from London and I had the surgery, I had like maybe two of the best work months I've ever had.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if it just like I was dialed in or focused, or I didn't have any distractions because it was a lot harder to walk. But
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like it was just one of those things that you start, I think again, it's like evaluating yourself, becoming self-aware of who you can become and who you are,
Mm.
taking some of those traits, allowing yourself to be human too. Like none of it's ever perfect, but like it's been amazing. And like the people who are there, like that, people like you and Chris and Jackson, who have been, Jackson's done all my laser therapy, and he didn't even hesitate. He's like, get in here, we're doing this. And that was leadership to me, because he didn't hesitate. He just said, you're coming in, you're doing this. And that's what I did,
Right.
because he believed in his heart of heart that it was right. When I talk with you, it's different. You and I communicate more because we're setting up a game plan for the day. What are our goals to accomplish? And then we take the feedback from what Chris is doing, because that's all he does is specialize in Achilles. And
Mhm.
we incorporate that into what you and I are doing. So it's been phenomenal. I mean, obviously I don't want anybody to go through it if they don't have to, but if they do, hopefully they take the same approach and, build their team and find the right people that can support them through it.
Yeah. No, and that's the most important side. So like from when the surgery happened to where you are now, where are we at? What are we doing? Like what are you doing?
Yeah, dude. I mean, we had our jump test on Tuesday, which is apparently a big deal to like get back to competition. So I think I'm close. I mean,
Hmm.
I've been sprinting. What, in 4 months we were
Four
doing,
months.
less
We
than
were,
4 months we were doing
yep.
box jumps.
Yep. I was gonna say it
So
was like three and a half,
um,
4 months. Yeah.
yeah, it was crazy. We had to keep counting. Like, are we really this?
I know,
Are
like,
we
is this
here?
like for real or are
Yeah.
we kidding ourselves?
Yeah, so it's been good. I'm not 100% by any means, but no, maybe I'll never get back to 100%. My goal obviously is to be stronger and faster, and I think I'm definitely stronger physically.
Hmm.
I think I'm definitely stronger mentally too,
Yes.
but legs is still going to take a little bit to get back. I'm probably 90% of the way there, I would think. Based on
Mhm.
the jump test, maybe I'm 100%. I don't know, but
Pretty
um,
close.
yeah. So we're doing well, and it's been, like I said, I'm back faster than I thought I was. We'll see in the fall when I go back and play quarterback again, and just see if I can maybe get the other one out of the way too right away. But
Yeah, right. Let's not.
let's
Let's
not do
not.
that. Well, we'll get to hang out for another year then.
Yeah, right.
But no, I mean, again, you learn, like, again, I've learned so much throughout this process about me, about, more than I ever thought I would learn about Achilles tendons,
Hmm.
and just rehabbing it in itself. Every time I've gotten hurt in the past, it's always like, I'm going to try to come back stronger. I took the same approach this time.
Hmm.
And, it's harder at 43 than it was when I was 17, 18, 20, when I had other injuries, but
Yeah.
none of them are surgery related either. So
Yeah.
sprained ankles and, you know, wrecked fingers and that kind of thing. But
Right.
yeah, things are good, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I kind of end things typically by asking people a couple of questions, and I do have one for you. You've given a ton already, but I am curious. If somebody were to have a big time injury, whether it's Achilles, like ACL, or just something that's like typically looked at as catastrophic,
Mm-hmm.
soft tissue wise, obviously, nothing more crazy than soft tissue. We don't want to go there. But what would you tell them? Like, what is like step one? Get this dialed in before rolling into the surgery for the better outcome.
Yeah, I think step one is accept it.
Mm.
It's you, like, if you don't accept that it's happened, and you're in denial, or you play the woe is me card, you're already set up for failure.
Hmm.
So just accept it. That's step one. If we want to go further, step two, build your team, talk
Hmm.
about it, and step three is attack it. And that's probably it's as simple as you can make it. That those are, if we were to set an outline up, that's the first thing. I'm glad I did it. I don't know if it just was natural for me to do it that way, and I'm
Right.
built that way, but the first thing I did was like, shit, I'm getting surgery. I knew
Hmm.
it. So I guess I'm just going to deal with it. How am I going to get home?
Right. Right.
That was it.
True. Well, I think the other thing that's really cool is what about what you did is you didn't necessarily accept what the surgeon said as like what you wanted to do. It didn't necessarily align with how you wanted to attack it, and you sought out other people that
Right.
were more in line with how you felt and what you wanted to do and
Yeah.
how you wanted to roll.
Yeah. And surgeons are there to repair. Um,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and they, again, they're very, very good at what they did. He did
Yep.
five Achilles surgeries that day. So he's
Yep.
very good. But again, they don't personalize the game plan. Every
Mhm.
human being's individually different. Like I didn't have previous injuries, a knee, hips, back. I did have back injuries too, but like nothing lingering at this moment type of thing. So, you got to get something specialized for who you are as a person. If you're less active than I was before, than I was, then your program's probably going to be a little bit different.
Mhm.
If you're more active than I was, you probably could possibly come back faster. I'm not the lightest guy either. I'm 250 pounds. So I'm doing all this at, 250. If I was 140, holy cow, this would probably be
Yeah.
a hell of a lot easier. So everybody's going to be different.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man, it's been very rewarding on my end to work with you. It's super cool. You're somebody I talk
That's
about.
because you got a foot fetish.
I actually don't. Let's make that clear. I don't. Your feet
He
are
does not.
beautiful.
Only mine. Only mine.
Your feet are beautiful. Let me tell you. But yeah, it's something that your story is something I use for others to relate and strive for, just because it's
Mhm.
been so awesome. I mean, Erica and I mean even Caitlin, we talk every time we walk out of here. It's like, dude, he's just fucking crushing it, and it's been so cool to see. So like, good work, man. I just want you to know, like, it's awesome to see it, and it started from the jump. So it's been super cool, super rewarding, and I'm happy to be part of the team. So
Yeah.
I want you
Well,
to know.
I'm glad you are too. And, obviously Erica, and Caitlin in there are great. And Emily's had a part of it too. So it's been very good. And now I've learned like, okay, what the cool thing about you guys is you're very good at teaching how the body works though too. So
Mm.
it's like not my Achilles. We aren't just 100% focused on my Achilles now. It's like, okay, we got to get everything else balanced out. We got to get everything working right. So now we're actually up on working on hips,
Mhm.
um, you know, flexibility. We're doing all that stuff now, which is pretty cool. And I'm starting to see some results in other areas that I didn't expect to have happen. So,
Yeah.
yeah, kudos to you guys. Well, I mean, it's not to make this a love fest, but you guys have been
Yeah,
pretty awesome. So,
we can talk about that
uh,
off camera.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'll make sure you get an extra 5 minutes with my leg next time.
Yeah. All right. Awesome, man. Well, hey, I know you're a busy dude, so I appreciate you coming on and talking about all this stuff. It's been cool, and it'll be fun to track like the next few months too. It's gonna be
Yeah, it's going to be
refreshing.
crazy. I mean, I'm starting to work on, getting that weight down a little bit now. We're
Mhm.
working on hips. I'm sure you got other tricks up your sleeve that we're going to be doing some other things that you're going to torture me with
Yeah.
and it'll be fun. And by the way, he does torture you, but you always feel way better afterwards.
Cool. Cool. All right, dude. Well,
Yeah, and I
thanks
would say this
again.
too. If anybody ever wants to talk or has
Yeah.
has that, I'm available. So feel free to reach out to me, especially now on Achilles stuff.
Mhm.
I'll be I can't do what Trevor does or what Chris or Jackson does, but I can be that guy that just kind of says, hey, this is what happened with me. This is how you can do it. Just from my experience and maybe I can help you get through it a little bit easier, just like Carrie did for me.
No, that's awesome, and that's if you're comfortable with it, we'll put info out. But
Yeah,
that's helpful,
yeah,
man.
man.
There's more out there that need that side of it. So
For sure.
that's super
Yep, that's what
cool.
I'm here for.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thanks again, dude.
You bet, buddy.
All right, guys, and we will talk with you next time.